Have you ever thought a simple Saturday in the store's pet would turn into a scene worthy of a movie? It's a comedy, it's full of mystery, the humor, the divine, and an ending that no one expected? As it is something that defies all logic that a story is so nonsensical that it seems like a joke, but it is a reality right here in Tampa. And the crazy thing? It all started with a burglar who thought he was going to get out scot-free. Even without knowing what the universe is, in some way, he had other plans for him. You've been through that feeling that the world conspires in your favor or against you. Well, this story will stir your heart, make you laugh, reflect, and ask questions to the court of eternal justice cannot reach you. And it gets to me, because what comes next may surprise you in a way you never thought possible, with a mix of humor, mystery, and a lesson for the life. Just think, one day, with the sun shining bright, strong smell food in the air, and the peace of one who knows that this is the place to be, a place of refuge for so sweet, caring, and of course, it's a lot of fun. It is against this backdrop that this all happens, where the hook mixed in with the unexpected, and the peace and quiet of a store, the pet turns into a stage for a story that's going to be live long in the memory of those who enjoy a good dose of surrealism. Have you ever felt that feeling that something big is going on, even without knowing exactly what it is? As it is, on that Saturday, the sky seemed to be getting ready to open the doors to something great, something of a miracle that no one could have predicted. And then, suddenly, it goes to someone in our story is that it seems to be a character in a comedy, a criminal who, with the whole of his attempt at a more serious and threatening, it ends up looking more like a caricature of a street. I wonder what went through his mind when I think of what you could get away with a sachet of gourmet food. And the reaction to it in the face of the chaos in you. You're going to see is that sometimes the universe likes to play with it, and that it looked like a robbery to get into a breathtaking scene, with a twist that challenges you to the laws of physics. And then there is the question, is the universe actually conspires to justice, or is it just a big joke to cosmic? You are going to figure this out now, because in the next chapter of this story, it's even more amazing. It is on me, because the story is just the beginning, and then the next thing that happens is going to leave you with your jaw drop. At times, we do find yourself thinking about all around actually makes sense, or if it's just a series of events that seem to be random. It was as if the universe was playing a game of chess the invisible, where every move must have a purpose that only comes with time. And there, in that moment of reflection, comes this feeling that there's something more, with a quiet strength that guides us, even when everything seems to be misleading or wrong. Perhaps that's the beauty of the day, to make sure that, even in the darkness there is a light that calls us to continue to believe that everything has a reason for being. If you feel the search for the meaning of it made any sense to you, leave it here in the comments which one you touch him you don't want it all up with loving care. Share these perceptions. It is a way of understanding that we are not alone in this journey, and that each and every one of us carries a story that deserves to be heard. And if you feel that this message resonated in any way, don't forget to like the video. Because of your support, it strengthens that connection is what we are building here. When you show that you are present, we understand that this message doesn't matter, and she was able to reach out to more people who need to hear something like that. And, of course, if you want to continue to explore your thoughts with me, take advantage and subscribe to the channel. This content is an opportunity to delve into the journey of understanding and hope, reminding us that we are part of something bigger than themselves. So, stay with me, because right now, for us to continue to deepen this topic, there's something even more important what you need to understand. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that is the truth of it is that a lot of times we are so caught in our own limiting beliefs that we forget that it all begins within ourselves. The way we see the world, and how the choices we make, the actions we take, it all, this is a direct consequence of our way of thinking and what we feed our mind on a daily basis. And a lot of the time, this power comes from the stories that we tell, from the views which we take to be true of the patterns that seem to be beyond dispute, but in essence they are just constructs of our own, shaped by the experiences of the past, because the pain is not addressed, or by the expectation that they were never really our own. When we begin to understand this, a light goes on in your head. We realize that a large part of what limits us, it is a prison, the invisible. The wall was built by the repeated thoughts, fears that seem to be huge, but they are, in fact, out of the shadows. And then, like a shadow that only exists in the absence of light, and these fears just seem to be overwhelming when you don't bring it up in our conscience, our inner power and strength. This is where it comes to the understanding that real change comes not from without, but from within. And that change begins with one simple, yet powerful, decision-making, to recognize that it is a fake, which was developed by other people, circumstances, and that, in fact, it is in our nature. Imagine for a moment that a person spends years in believing you are not able to, and that it is not worthy, that your life is in a constant struggle, and that the universe conspires against him or her. These ideas are, on the surface, seem to be absolute truth, but in essence, they are the only stories that she has accepted it as the truth. When such a person has the courage to challenge those thoughts, to face them without any fear, she begins to realize that they don't have power over her. The power lies in the decision to no longer support them. And, in doing so, she begins to break free, to discover, to understand what the opportunities were always there, hidden behind a wall of insecurities that she has built up. It is as if you were waking, silent, want to reconnect with your true essence. Because, deep down, we all carry a source of power, and of love, and of the potential is limitless, that many times it is asleep because of the noise outside, the views of others, the expectation that the group explains on its website. But the strength is there, just waiting for you to acknowledge that the alimentemos it with positive thoughts, with autocompaseo, and with a genuine desire to improve. It's not a question of turning into a new person overnight, but take it one step at a time, to opening up the layers of fear, of doubt, of self-criticism, to our true essence can be to come up with a whole new level. And, even though it seems simple in theory, but it requires courage to be enormous. Because in order to truly transform, we need to confront the thing that haunts us, that we prefer to avoid it. It's like opening the doors of an old house filled with dust and the memories are painful, but at the same time, it saves our greatest treasure, our true history, our essence is pure. And when you do that, you start to realize that all the things that seem so very far away, peace, confidence, and self-love, it always has been inside of us, just waiting for the right time to be redeemed for. When you understand this, it is a sense of freedom pervades our hearts. A freedom that is not dependent on external factors, such as, for validation purposes, or in circumstances of political, but of a deep connection with who you are, in fact. And it is at this point that we realize that the greatest battle is not outside, but within us, in our mind, in our ability to pick and choose what food you decide what stories we are going to get the credit, and, especially, to have confidence in our light, even when all seems dark around us. Because, after all, the strength to change, to grow, and to free herself he was always there, hidden beneath layers of fear, hoping that the people to have the courage to look inside and say, I've had enough, now it's my time to rewrite the story. And then, when that realization sets in, it changes everything. Because we understand that the universe conspires against us, but that we are, many times, we are sabotaging thoughts or both. This is a great eye-opener. The key to transformation lies in our ability to change, the internal narrative of reprogramming your mind. You choose to believe in our own power. And, in doing so, we begin to walk more lightly on the planet, with no hope, and the certainty that, no matter the circumstances, we can always start again, it's always reinventing itself. Because, deep down, we are the authors of our own story, and the architects of our own destiny, and the power to change all of this, it is literally on the tip of your fingers, the courage to take the next step. I now want to go more in depth on this topic. Because that is the true essence of this day, is to understand that behind every challenge, there is opportunity for growth, and the chance of reconnecting with our soul and find out what is the real power has always been with us, just waiting for us to have the courage to turn it back on. And while this continuous is inviting us to look inward, to ask for our own truth, and to make room for a new life, more in tune with who you really are, of what we can achieve, and, in particular, with the unconditional love that carried us on his chest. And, along the way, we find that the most important thing is not to get to any particular place, but rather learning to enjoy every step you take, every discovery, every single moment of vulnerability, which leads to a more authentic to ourselves. Because, at the end of the day, this is a real journey to find each other, to accept and to understand that the greatest freedom is to believe that we are able to transform into anything, just because you have the strength to want to change. Says right there, I came to realize the truth. And there are many times when we find ourselves stuck in a loop or invisible, in a web of questions that seem to engage in it without being noticed, as we were walking through a maze with no exit in appearance, but in fact, the output was always there, right in front of us, hidden within our own courage to face what we really feel. It is as if, for many years, we have accumulated a layer of insecurity, fear, and expectations of both external and internal, that have obscured our essence. We have to doubt our potential, and we steered clear of that power, which, in fact, it has always been within us, just waiting for a moment to wake up. And then this moment comes, a lot of times, when we least expect it, when something is inside of us, it starts whispering to you that there is more to life than appearances, in addition to all of the limitations that we have created or that have been imposed on you. and then you start to realize that all the things that seem to be a giant, in fact, it was nothing more than a shadow, which would be fully resolved by the simple act of believing. The true transformation is born out of exactly this decision is silent, look within, and to connect with their own truth, even though it may be difficult to grasp at first. Because, when we look at ourselves honestly, we've found that what keeps us many times that we are not the external circumstances but the narrative that we have about them, the way in which we interpret what happens to us. And when you realize this, we begin to realize that we all have the power to rewrite this story. You change the script, which seemed to be in place. It is as if, in the understanding of our own power, despotassimos in a deep sleep, one that has made us forget that we are the creators of our own reality, we can turn the seemingly impossible into being only with your sincere desire to do something different. And in that moment, it all becomes a matter of choice. You decide which is the fear of not going to control our own actions, and that the questions are not going to silence our inner voice. Because you are, in essence, that is the great revelation of the true freedom that is not out there. It's always been inside of us, ready to be discovered, nurtured, and strengthened. And it often is accompanied by a profound silence, of listening carefully to our own emotions, our doubts, our sorrows, and our joys. When we can silence the noise of the outside world, we can begin to listen to what is really important, and it comes with a clarity that seemed to be hidden by a dense fog. It is at this moment that you realize that you are the barriers that seemed insurmountable, are, in fact, of the buildings that you can dismantle with just a simple act of courage. It is to accept who we are, in fact, that with all our imperfections, insecurities, and strengths. It is as if, by doing so, we libertassimos of the prison are invisible, in a prison that exists only in our mind, and then, it all makes for a lighter, more truly our own. And, as we reflect on this day, we are to understand that she was never in a straight line, but it's a kind of a dance, at all times of doubt and discovery, between the falls and up, in between the moments of profound doubt, and flashes of clarity that lights the path. With each step taken in this direction, it is a statement of what we are capable of. We can go above and beyond what we imagined, and that change begins with the simple act that you can afford. Because, in the end, this is the greatest truth that we can learn from our greatest strength lies in our ability to believe, to reinvent themselves, to turn every scar into a symbol of resilience. And, in doing so, we create a new reality, more in tune with who you really are. The freer, the more you take, the more real. This is the essence of our journey, the journey of figuring out that, even in the face of chaos, there's a light within you that never shall be quenched, and that is, when you get it, everything around you starts to change from a default, which is natural and in depth. I now want to go more in depth on this topic. Because you are, in fact, that light that we have found within us. It is a kind of seed that germinates silently, often without knowing, till the time comes for it to blossom to the full. And is that bloom? This is a manifestation of who we are. In fact, it's not something you can force, to control, or manipulate. It just happens. When we allow ourselves to silence, acceptance and self-love can take the place of fear, anger, doubt, and judgment. It's like, to be free of the layers of the superficial, of the expectations of the external and of the masks that we wear it for so long. You start to hear a soft-spoken, and a remembrance of the former of who we really are, and hidden under years of conditioning and experience gained. And, in the process, you start to realize that all the things that seem so very far away, peace, authenticity, and connection to the truth, it was always there, inside of us, waiting for the right moment to show itself. It is as if it was a rediscovery, and a reconnect iron with the inner that has never gone away. It just went dormant under a layer of insecurity or a sense of urgency. When we allow this to wake up, everything around you start to reflect this change, as it's a mirror that shows our vision of a world more in tune with who we really are. It's a movement for a return to the core of things. They also reveal our truths, and, at the same time, our greatest vulnerabilities. This is a journey. In fact, it is a journey of self-embrace, of the courage to look honestly, without all of the filters that others expect, or of what we believe we ought to be. This is an invitation for you to quit the role of a victim, someone who would hold that in the circumstances to change before you feel good, and take on, once and for all, it is the responsibility of creating their own reality on the basis of what is most genuine within yourself. And that requires courage. They often don't even know who we are, why we are so used to running away from our own personal truths, which, when they come to the surface, seem to be daunting or provocative of war. But, in fact, they are the most direct path to the freedom, the peace you have been searching for. When we begin to see the truth that is hidden, it all gets more and more clear to you. We find that the strength of which we tried out many, many times, it is inside of us the whole time, just waiting for you to acknowledge them. And this is not something external, or not it's a big achievement that comes from the outside to the inside, but it's a discovery and built a resume of the power of the staff that has always belonged. And, in doing so, we have learned that the fear, the doubt, the trial, they are just stories we tell ourselves, that we can rewrite at any time, with the choice of taking stock of what we really are. It is a transformation from quiet, which takes place in the depths of our being, but which has an impact on the visible and tangible in our everyday lives, in the way that we interact in the course of our decisions, our sense of purpose. In this connection, our very essence, it's a sort of reunion with our soul. It is a reminder that we are awesome, have been able to create, to love, to transform the reality around us, simply because we believe in the truth. And when you realize this, we can begin to understand what it seemed to be difficult, if not impossible, to change, in fact, depends on the decision we have to look into it, to accept that we can find, and to have confidence in our ability to continue to evolve. Because, deep down, that this is the truth. No one comes out of it in order to save us. No one's going to give us a happiness and fulfillment. It has always been within us, hidden under the layers of doubt, fear, and stories that we believe to be our reality. And it is liberating, because it gives us back the responsibility of creating our own story, to make peace with who we are of the truth, and allow that light to thrive, without fear, without a struggle, and with the ease of someone who knows you. If you allow yourself to be who you really are, you'll find your place in the world in a way you never thought possible. And it is at this point that you realize that in life, there needs to be a constant struggle against what is stopping us from being happy. It may in fact be an expression of our biggest lineup, the dance of the gentle and the universe, which it reflects back to our true essence. When one is freed from the shackles of the past and the expectations of others, we make room for him to surprise you with possibilities which before seemed to be unheard of. And it all starts with one simple decision, to either accept who we are, and to stop judging, and trust. As we do, this movement is built, and the whole set fits in a natural way. It's like, when you break out of the chains unseen, which we were due, Reto Massimo's in the control of human history, not as victims, but as the authors are aware of a story that we write with love, courage, and authenticity. I now want to go more in depth on this topic. Because, really, this is a journey of self-discovery, is a kind of excavation of silence, where each layer removed reveals a deeper part of who we are, that the essence of what often lies hidden beneath the layers of expectations, fears, and patterns that we've learned over time. And, in the process, we realize that a big part of what keeps us from moving forward is not on the outside, but inside we are the same, in a voice that thought to the questions that we consume, or the belief that we don't have enough of it. When we start to notice those thoughts and emotions, with curiosity and welcoming, something will change. It's as if, suddenly, you see everything in a new light, a light that does not judge, it does not condemn, but to simply accept it. The latter, in its turn, it is the very first step to get rid of all the prison, to recognize that many of the times, charge, and without realizing it, a prison created by our own hands, fed by the stories that we tell ourselves that we are capable of, that we don't deserve, or that the world is out there. It is important that all of our experiences. So, at this point, we begin to understand that the transformation does not come from the one great act, a decision, a dramatic or radical change from one moment to another, but a series of small, daily choices. One is listening carefully to what we feel, what we think, what limits us. It is a movement to rebuild it, almost like a piece of art that will be addressed in a short, layer by layer, until the true beauty, the one that had always been there, you start to show it more clearly. And beauty is not perfection. It's not a mask of happiness, of constant, but the authenticity of the one who accepts you with all your faults, with all of its internal conflicts. When we've allowed ourselves to the latter, we have a sort of built-in space where peace can blossom, even in the storms out there, to keep on going. Because, deep down, that peace comes from within, and out of alignment with our truth, and the recognition that we are in a constant state of evolution, and in the process of discovering and rediscovering each and every day. And, in this way, we can begin to see a picture of all the decisions we have made in a different way. We realize that a lot of times, the one that looks like a difficult choice to make is actually an opportunity for us to break free from old restraints, breaking up with stories that have not made the most sense for those who are in the making. Each and every decision that you make, however small it may seem to you, it's like a seed planted in the direction of our freedom, emotional and spiritual levels. It's as if, when you open the door to authenticity, and we begin to understand that true strength lies in the courage to be who you are, regardless of what others might think or expect. And, in doing so, we began to live more lightly on the planet, the more you connect with the present, and the more you trust in the natural flow of life. Because you are, in essence, all the things that we are looking out for us, the recognition, success, and love, only if it makes them truly ours, when our hearts and minds are at peace with who you are, being at this moment in time. This understanding, in and of itself, and it is a silent revolution in all of us. It's as if the light will begin to shine a light on the darkest corners of bringing to the surface what was always there, hidden away out of fear or by convention. And, in the light of these edges, we let go of our deepest emotions, the ones that carry on with care, but also the strength, by the fear of it, to feel it, lose control, or in the descontrolariamos. But, in fact, that is exactly when you begin to feel it all, and without the resistance that we find true freedom. It is in this space that the host of the cure, but it turns out that courage is born from the inside to the outside, and I'm beginning to understand that the greater the force it is in this vulnerability, open to the world, no masks, no hiding places. After all, it is the vulnerability that lies in our authenticity and most pure, and the one that connects, that inspires you, that makes. And then, when you see that deep connection, we can begin to understand the impact of our choices that resonates far beyond the us. Each step is given, with sincerity and courage, have the power to transform not only our history, but also of the universe around us, touching lives, raising awareness, creating an invisible web of energy that moves in the direction of goodness, of love, and of truth. It is as if we are all knit together by the invisible strings, with each one contributing its part to the unique, your true essence, to the great symphony of the evolution of the collective. And in that moment, we realize that the real power is not in the resistance as it is, but in the acceptance of who it came from, the courage to move forward with an open heart, even in the face of uncertainty, knowing that each day is an opportunity for growth, learning, and connecting more deeply with our true essence. I now want to go more in depth on this topic. It is the idea of accepting that it is. In fact, a lot of times it seems simple in theory, but in practice, it is one of the most challenging that we may face. Because, deep down, that our mind is constantly trying to convince themselves that they are in control, it is possible that we can shape the reality of our desire. And then, when something happens to you that runs away from this expectation, in a quiet strength comes in. It's like a shade that keeps us attached to the past, the fear, the doubt. But, when we look at all of this more clearly, we see that the resistance is nothing more than an attempt to deny our own humanity, that which makes us most vulnerable, imperfect, and, at the same time, you are extraordinary. And then, there is a question that many people avoid. Why is it so hard to accept that what it is? Maybe it's because, at heart, we have an idea that is too rigid for who we are and where we are going, how it all was supposed to happen. And when it's your life, with your wisdom, be silent. We show that it is the only thing you can truly control is our attitude in the face of events, and it all becomes more clear, more transparent. Accept that it is not a weakness. On the contrary, it is a show of true courage, and a gift that takes strength and a degree of maturity. It's like you open your hand, and let the life drain out between his fingers, not trying to hold on to her power, too, because by doing so, we are on the turning away from the flow of the harmony that exists in the place of birth of the present moment. And it's this fluidity that is an invitation to a journal for us to let go of the shackles of expectation for what the heart feels, that freedom is just the acceptability, on the understanding that it is all part of the process of evolution. Because, to endure, and we are feeding the illusion of control, that it can only hold them still more, when we accept him, we let go of the energy before it was caught in the struggle against one's own reality. It is as if, by giving up control, we are, in fact, taking on the most powerful force that exists in the trust, to believe that everything is happening exactly as it should be, even though your mind not be able to understand it at the time. The truth is, that the latter, deep in the connect to a more genuine one, which don't need external validation to feel safe and secure. When you can't do that, you start to realize that life is so much more than a series of obstacles or tough times. It is a dance of subtle, between what we want and what is this, and this dance is not only the case with grace as we learn to accept your pace for the entire universe. It is a movement of the delivery of consciousness, where your heart will open out, without the weight of the object you want to change the world it's already happening. And in that acceptance, are the insights that were previously hidden from view, a more in-depth understanding of who we are of the truth, and the potential that we have within us. And in that moment, you start to realize that this whole journey of self-discovery, it is, in essence, it is a journey of letting go. Letting go of what we believe, what we ought to be, from what we think we need, the expectations that we have created with so much force. It is a release from the subtle, yet powerful. It makes us realize that true strength lies in vulnerability. You accept that we can't change and still to move ahead with hope and courage. Then, for each step in a path to acceptance, This is an opportunity to find out what we are more than our limitations, that we are in a field of infinite possibilities when we allow ourselves to just be, without a struggle, without a trial, and just living in the now, with all of its beauty, its pain, its light. And it is precisely in this area, the authenticity of which we find the true power of that which is born of the heart that you give to life, as it relies on the flow of the universe, and that, above all else, know that the higher the learning that is at fault, the courage to open yourself up to the unknown. Because, deep down, all that you seek, peace, fulfillment, and love is inside of us, waiting for us to allow ourselves to gain access to it through the unconditional acceptance of all that we are and all that we are in. And so, the journey becomes a dance in a harmonious celebration of constant and our own findings, is an opportunity for us to reconnect with the essence of pure, of one's being, that never failed to be there, silent, just waiting for you to recognize and welcome him with love. I now want to go more in depth on this topic. It is this depth that we have tried, many times. It is a day of silence, in a private conversation with one's own soul, in which we learn to listen to that whisper, that it was always there, but it's the routine, distraction, and even our own self-doubt they have tried to silence. When we slow down and listen, we have realized that all the things that we are looking out for validation, in recognition of the external, on the approval of others, there is nothing comparable to what we find within our own selves. It's like a key that, once discovered, will unlock a world of possibilities, and a feeling of freedom. It seemed to be impossible, because, in fact, it has been hidden under the layers. We still do not understand the value of your own in the silence of our vulnerability, our own sort of imperfect, of course. And, in the process, every decision we make, every choice we make, it is an expression of that connection is the most real, the most transparent with who we really are, without the mask, without the mask, without the mask. The truth is hidden. It is often that we are made up of layers and layers of stories, dreams, fears, which in the trap, and the dreams we put aside, for fear of seeming weak, or because we think we are not worthy. But this is a journey of self-discovery, teaching us the courage. The more real it is to face the truth, the more it lasts as it may appear, and notice that it is the first step in the transformation needs. It's not about finding a magic trick or a shortcut to it, but on the understanding that change comes from recognizing all of the things we look at, to expose our wounds to the more difficult, then accept that, sometimes, we are our own biggest critics and our own obstacles. And, when you accept it, we can begin to see that life is not a competition. It's a race against time, or against the expectations of the world, but it is a journey of discovery continued, in a move that happens from the inside to the outside. For each layer, which we show you, each and every piece of the shade we are bringing them to light, we find that the impact of the transformation of the echo, not only in the us but all around us. Like a pebble thrown into a quiet pond, all of our actions, and our internal changes to create waves from the impact, spread, and inspire other people to also look into the question of their own stories. It's a cycle of wake up, a stream of light as it spreads silently, often without you knowing it, but it makes a world of difference in the way that we see for the life of the people of the world. And in that moment of discovery, it is clear that the greatest power lies in our ability to choose who we are and who we want to be, even in the face of so much uncertainty. Because, deep down, what really matters is the genuine connection with what we know, what we believe, that our essence is pure, the one that never ceased to exist, just waiting for the right moment to be reckoned with. And that's when it all changes, when you realize the impact of our way that is not in the achievements of the outside, but on the transformation of the internal, on the courage to be honest with ourselves, and accept the truth, no matter how simple or complex it may be, is not enough. Because, in the end, the greatest freedom comes from within, and to know that we can be who we are, with our faults, our doubts, and our dreams come true, and even so, we are going to be a complete whole. Thus, each and every step taken in this direction, it is a victory for the silent, an advance that you don't have to be grandiose to be meaningful, because the real change happens in the stillness of the heart, and the authenticity of our work. And then, when we give ourselves to this process, we found that all of the things that we look outside for validation, acceptance, or approval, it is already inside us, just waiting for us to open our eyes and see clearly the reality of this fact, many times, and it was so obvious that you had not noticed. I now want to go more in depth on this subject. It is because of this understanding, and with this revelation, it is the key that unlocks the next level of our evolution. You understand that it all begins from within, and that the real impact comes from being aligned with who you really are, and it's a change that is possible only when you stop to think about it, when we allow ourselves to feel and to accept every part of ourselves, without judgment or reservation. And in that moment of deep emotional connection, we realize that the universe conspires in favor of those who know him, the one who accepts its own shadow and light, and that, in doing so, we unlock potential infinity of creation, and of love, and of peace. Because, in the end, it's all what we are looking for, that feeling of belonging, of being at one with our inner selves. We are truly free to be who we are without fear, and without masks, just by living our truth, the more pure, and they have always been there, waiting for you to reconhecimos with a spirit of courage and love. Says right there, I came to realize the truth. And it is precisely at this point that a lot of times we get lost in the vastness of your own, indoor, looking for answers that seem to be forever beyond reach, hidden under the layers of doubt, fear, and expectation that we have been accumulating over time. The truth is, in essence, is a simple one, but the mind is a complex and tends to complicate it all, creating a web of thoughts that disconnects us from the essence of the purest that we have. And then, when you try to figure all of this, a lot of times we forget that to change, it's not a question of an attempt or effort to be constant, but the acceptance of the deep, and of a recognition of quiet, that's all that we seek is already within you, just waiting for you to have the courage to look inward, to listen to what your soul truly wants us to hear. It's like we are always on the lookout for something out of it, when, in fact, everything you need is already there, within reach of the heart, the simplicity of a moment of silence, in the sincerity of the one conscious breathing, the courage to be vulnerable with ourselves and others. And it is this vulnerability that is too often we take it as a weakness. It's actually a bridge that connects us to our true power, our authenticity, and the freedom to be who we truly are without fear of judgment, or get lost in the illusion of what we need to do something to be worthy of your love. When we are free of these shackles unseen, we have begun to realize that life, with all its nuances and challenges, is an opportunity for constant we meet again, to reaffirm the core of accepting our own imperfections as to be an integral part of our growth. And, in the process, we realize that the real power comes from inside, that is sure to be silently that no matter what happens, we are exactly where we ought to be living is the experience that will take you to the next level of self-awareness. All of this teaches us that the journey is not linear, that is, each block, each of the doubt, each and every moment of silence is an opportunity for us to go more into the truth, to realize that what really matters is not what other people think about it, but what we know, what we believe, what makes us vibrate with joy or peace. When we connect with that understanding in mind, we can begin to see things from a new perspective, one that does not judge, it does not prejudge, you just accept it. And, when you accept it, you release a powerful force that has always been there, waiting for me to stand there, like a seed that germinates on the ground more fertile for our own self. It is in this moment of deep connection to what we perceive to be the most challenging, is not external, but internal to dispermos of all of the things that prevents us from seeing the light. And, in doing so, we will be able to transform each and every difficulty as an opportunity for growth, and each of the questions is a bridge to the wisdom of each fear as an opportunity for courage. Because, deep down, that this is the true essence of transformation, the courage to be yourself, to embrace our vulnerability, and to recognize that we are in a constant state of evolution. And, by acknowledging it, we will give an important first step in the direction of freedom, peace of mind, out of alignment with our deepest truth. I now want to go more in depth on this topic. From the moment in which we understand that all of what we are looking for is a genuine connection with our inner selves, things become more clear, lighter in weight, more real. And it's this authenticity that you find the peace you have been searching for, and not as something external, but rather as the in-house expertise, a sense of being at one with who we really are. It is not a destination, but a journey of constant self-discovery, of autocompasio, and the courage to leave behind all the things that limit us. And, in this way, we see that the larger the liberation comes from within, not from a recognition of the silent we are the complete exactly as we are, and this full is not dependent on external conditions, but on an attitude of acceptance and self-love. That understanding transformed the way we see it, the life of the people, and for our own choices, and creating a space for the authenticity of blossoms, of course, without an effort, without the masks. And then, when I open this space we can begin to live the truth, more light, more present, more in love with ourselves and the world around us. Because, in the end, it all comes down to is that the connection with our inner selves, which is the source of all our strength and all our peace. And, as we seek to understand and embrace this truth, we feel that each step is taken in this sense. It is a win, and a confirmation that you're headed in the right direction, as close as possible to become the world's most accessible, more free, more happy. And then, in a movement of self-discovery, we realize that the universe conspires in favor of the one who knows the truth, anyone who accepts it in its entirety, to those who have the courage to simply be who you are. Because, in the end, this is the greatest revolution that we can make, a revolution built to be true to ourselves, honor our history, our sorrows, our joys, and without fear, with love, and to be sure that it is all part of the process of evolution. And so, we'll learn, grow, and setting us free, and always with an open heart, onto the next lesson, and for the next revelation, the next step in the journey of the soul. And in the meantime, life is revealed in her beauty, more pure and true, like the dance of everlasting discovery and rebirth, where each and every moment is an opportunity to reaffirm who we are, in fact. Says right there, I came to realize the truth. And, even though the questions start to arise when the silence seems to become heavy, and the feeling of being lost, the threat to invade the soul, it's something very subtle, almost unnoticeable, which reminds us that the path isn't made just for the big steps, but it is also a small receipts for the day. Every decision we make, every choice, quiet, hold the faith in our own selves, is like a seed planted in the fertile soil of our soul. And it is this seed that, with time, it germinates, grows, and it tells us that what really matters is not the speed at which we move, but it is the authenticity with which we are connected with what we really are. Because, deep down, that this connection is the real fuel of our transformation, and it is the bridge that takes us beyond the surface, beyond the fear, to a place where we can see with clarity who we really are, beyond the masks that we have for the fear of not being accepted. On this journey, we have learned that the bigger the opponent is not out there, the people, the circumstances and the obstacles that we face, but inside we are the same. It is the voice of judgment, and the echo of your insecurities, so that the shadow of a doubt, that he make us to doubt our own light. And when you realize this, we can begin to understand that the real power is in our hands and in our ability to choose where we place our attention to, what we feed into our minds and in our hearts. Every thought, every feeling, is like a seed, and grow this is what we manifest into our reality. If you grow to love, gratitude, courage, and hope, even in the most difficult moments, we have to strengthen the roots of a new version of ourselves, the more in tune, more real, more free. This in mind, it often comes as a revelation, quietly, in a whisper that lingers in the silence of my soul, saying that all of what we are looking for is already inside of us, waiting to be explored, recognized, and nurtured. And, in the process of self-discovery, we realize that what really turns it is not an external change, but internal change, a change of perspective, a decision to see beyond the apparent limitations and immerse yourself in the essence of our lives. This is a real journey of change, one that challenges us to abandon the illusions and become your truth. The more pure, the more difficult it is sometimes to accept. In the background, it was a matter of courage to be who you really are. And, well, we'll, always with an open heart, embracing each experience as an opportunity for growth, and every challenge is a lesson that gets us closer to our inner selves more deeply. Because, at the end of the day, life is a dance. This discovery is a constant exchange of knowledge, where each step is taken with the authenticity. It's a win-win. And then, even when your path seems dark, when the questions appear to be greater than the hope, and it is at this point that their true power is revealed, the courage to continue to trust the process, believe in you. Even in the darkness there's a light to guide us, one light, and that is our own essence of mind. I now want to go more in depth on this topic. When do we begin to understand that the light never leaves us? Even in the darkest moments, everything will change. We went to see what some of the obstacles, difficulties, and even in the losses, they are, in fact, the tools of learning, calls for a transformation to a more intense, more true. And, at this point, we realize that our battle is not against the world but against any of the limitations that we have created in us, the ones that keep us from accepting who you really are. And then, when you release these limitations, we have discovered that the real power lies in our ability to choose peace, trust, and love, regardless of the circumstances. It is as if a new light spring, a vision that shows us that life is not a fight against something that's out there, but it's an opportunity for us to align with our true essence, to reconnecting with the truth, more pure, which is always present, just waiting for you to acknowledge them. And, at this point, the responsibility is no longer to be a burden and an opportunity to be the authors of our own story, to write, one chapter after the other, with a spirit of courage, integrity, honesty, and love. Because, in the end, all that really matters is that this connection is honest with who we are of the truth, the things that make us vibrate with our inner selves phone. And, to the extent that we are freeing you from the shackles of the past, and the expectations of others of the questions that we had, we realize that life becomes a dance of light, a celebration of all that we are and can be. It's as if, when you open up your heart to this truth, the day-to-day to become more fluid, more natural, more in line with a higher purpose, which is to simply be who we are, courage, and love. Leave in the comments, I came to realize the truth. If you've come this far, it's because of this message is played to some special place inside of you. Few people have been able to let this moment of reflection and a deep emotional connection, and if you're still here, know that this is a sign that something is awakening and wanting to be seen. He comments that I'm with you till the end, because, in fact, this is a journey that is made up of small steps, but together, they make a world of difference. And if you that this content has helped you to see things with an eye for light and broader sense of clarity, let your like. It is one way to strengthen the power and help this message reach anyone who also needs to hear it. Take the chance to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so, because we still walk together, explore new perspectives, and how to turn every challenge into an opportunity for growth. Every video is an opportunity to reconnect with the essence that is already there, within you, just waiting to bloom. And, of course, if the conversation touched you in some way, is here with me in this journey. Each step is an achievement in itself, and that together, we can make this journey, the more light, the more it is true. There's a video right here on the side that complements the story. Clicks, and still am there. It is because the next chapter of our story is right there waiting for you. This course is for all of us. Every moment of the attention and care it gives you a chance to meet and go make peace with who you really are. So, stay with me, because the best is yet to come. This journey is my own, and I want it to be yours, because together we can go further than you think.